Hi, this is Kelly Mariano. Just wanted to share a quick note with you. Well, I guess it's not a note, just maybe a word of encouragement um, about persisting. I was recently introduced to Og Mandino or his some of his body of work, and I'm in a bit of a coaching program, so I had to read a book by someone who learned from him as well, named Dave Blanchard. So I'm not really sure whose quote this is because I'm reading Dave Blanchard's book, but he often quotes Og Mandino, so I can't remember whose quote it is, but it says, "One step at a time isn't too difficult. Therefore, if I persist, I will succeed." Again, one step at a time isn't too difficult, and if I persist, I will succeed. And that's a reminder for most of us that desire things that are, I want to say, beyond the norm or beyond maybe what typical people achieve. Or if you have a big dream, it speaks directly to your heart because there's going to be a lot of challenges along the way and a lot of what we call failures or failure points or points that where we realize the direction in which we are going isn't the right one, or we may find out it's just more difficult than we thought it was going to be. So that was something that has been repeated throughout different parts of this book, or throughout the chapters that I've read of this book. Um, what's the book called? I don't know. I can't think of what the book is called right now. But anyway, and I don't want to spend 2 minutes on video just trying to figure that out. But anyway, the point is, and one of the reasons it came up is I was talking to a friend of mine, and she had just recently purchased an apartment building, and I said, "Yeah, I'd like to know more about how you went on to do that." Because she said a lot of people that she tried to do it with wouldn't didn't want to work with her, and I said, "Why do you think that is?" And she said, "Because of fear." Uh, and then she said, now that she's done it, people are like, "Oh, I should have done it with you," etc., etc. And she said, one of the messages she sent to me, it said, "I've made a lot of mistakes, but in the end, I won." And that goes along with that quote because she persisted. And that's one thing that I've learned about her over the years is that she will persist. She'll keep trying it, even when a friend of mine met her, independent of me, and she started talking about her. Even before she said what her name was, that woman came to mind because I know how she is. I mean, I know that part of her, that she's a persistent person. So I want to encourage you to be persistent in whatever it is you're pursuing, because it's just not always going to be easy. It's not just, "Hey, I'm gonna open up the store, open up the doors to my store, and the customers are just going to flood in." Now, maybe they are going to. Maybe whatever you're selling is so hot that that's what it is. That's how people are going to show up. But very often, especially with stuff online, it takes a minute. It takes a while to get things lined up. Like I'm working with a client now, and I was telling her, essentially, you got to get the communication right. Like if you're doing business, you got to understand what your client wants so that you can give it to them. But then you got to know where your client is, because if you have what your client wants, you have what they want, it's the way they need it and all that kind of stuff, but they don't know you exist, therefore they don't know you have it, nothing has changed from an end result standpoint, but you are really close to winning that game. So it's a matter of getting in front of them. So what we're doing right now is finding out where her audience is exactly. And as a business coach, it's not really about me knowing where your audience is. It's about you as a business owner knowing where your audience is. So just posting in your own private Facebook feed or whatever social media you're on, just posting on your own personal feed may not be enough, because they keep changing the algorithms as to who they're going to show your content to. So it's not enough to just record a video and then hope to God that somebody goes out there and views it. You really have to for the sake of doing business, I don't mean someone doing something like this just to encourage one another, but I mean if you're doing business and you're doing videos or content in order to get people to engage you for business purposes, you have to get the video in front of the right audience. In other words, if you were serving an audience of people over, I don't know, and if you're over 70 and you're watching this, that's cool. That's not the point. But statistically, older folks are slower to get online, and then if they are online, they're maybe not as engaged. Now, obviously, there's people over 70, so you don't need to leave comments telling me how your grandmother gets online and all that kind of stuff. My mother was online when she passed at 78. She had been online for quite a while. And my aunt's online, she's in her 80s. So I get that exists. But typically, if I'm trying to reach somebody 80 years old or something like that, social media may not be the best avenue for that. It may be a viable one, but it may not be the best one. You need to go to where they are, not put your ad out there and hope that they see it. That's not a good methodology. So, and that's the thing. There's always the possibility that the struggle that you're having is because you're missing a piece, or there's an element of understanding either of your audience or what your audience is looking for or how you're communicating it to them that's not clicking with them. You're writing it the way you think that they're going to understand it, and it's not consistent with how they understand it or how they look at the problem. One of the examples of that, and if you've heard from me before, you may have heard this before, but we talk about this with this disconnect where if I'm trying to help someone, or if a person is suffering from dehydration, one of the possible, maybe even likely side effects is going to be, or could be, headaches as a result of dehydration. But the problem is everyone doesn't realize dehydration and headaches could be tied together. So what I say is if your client is up in the middle of the night tossing and turning, you need to understand what's keeping them up. So in this particular case, it might be the headache. But you may have a solution for hydration that will help them to avoid the headaches, but they're not going to know the two. If they don't understand the connection, you putting them together is not going to help. You got to go to them the way that they are and the way that they understand it. Of course, I didn't expect this to turn into a business video, but that's in essence what part of this is. But it's encouraging you in your business that sometimes you're that close. Like sometimes you have to make the connection for your audience. You have to help them to see like, oh, okay, what are they aware of is a problem that I can help them with. Let me connect to that awareness of their headache and then walk them back, educate them with education-based marketing towards the solution that will help them get to where they want to be. For my friend, when she did the business, I don't know, was one of the things she told me, the last message I got from her, she said, hey, what I did was I connected, I think she said she got one of the books for dummies. I don't think it was just Real Estate for Dummies. Commercial Real Estate. I think it was Commercial Real Estate for Dummies. And she said she reached out to the author and then got the author to mentor her. She said that way she knew she wasn't missing anything, and she went forward and bought the apartment. Now, what's interesting is a lot of times we don't like to spend money for, and I'm not telling you need to go spend money for something necessarily, but sometimes you do. Sometimes, you can get a lot of videos here on YouTube, or you can get videos here and there to educate you for what you're trying to do. But the reality is sometimes you just shorten the curve by getting to the source. If you can find a reliable, accurate source, if you can get to the source, it just makes it easier and makes your job of getting there much simpler. And it actually saves you money when you spend money. People often don't think about that. They don't think about what does it cost you to stay in the same place 30 more days, or look at it the other way around. What are you losing by sitting still 30 more days or what have you? So those are some of the things that you need to think about when you're doing stuff. So let's get back to persisting. If you know that what you're trying to do is, hey, I want to build this real estate empire that's going to retire me, then at no point should you ever stop and say, no, I'm good. I'm not going to try this anymore. Or this is too difficult. This is too hard. Or if you're trying to get your body in shape, there should be at no point should you be talking about how difficult something is to the point where you're ready to quit. Now, you might be ready to quit, but quitting should not be on the agenda. It shouldn't even be one of the options you see as a viable thing for you to do. It should be a non-option, really. Matter of fact, someone said to me, because they've watched me go through a lot of different challenges, and I continued to persist, and they were like, "You are a persistent dude," and I was like, "I don't even think of it that way. All I know is just keep your feet moving. Like if it's kind of a football analogy, but basically, or it's really, I guess you could use it for just walking, but just keep moving. Just keep moving. It may be slow, may not look like anything, may not look like you're going anywhere, but the reality is if you keep moving, you're going to get somewhere. Hopefully you're going in the right direction when you're moving, because that's the other challenge too, because sometimes your movement or slow progress or lack of progress might mean your walking is good, but you're walking in the wrong direction. So you want to make sure, again, goes back to making sure you understand where it is you're going and how you're supposed to go. But if you know where you're going and how you're supposed to get there, then it should not be that difficult for you to find your way or to find your way to success. So this is Kelly Mariano. Just wanted to share that with you today. Continue to persist, because if you persist, you will succeed. If you persist, you will succeed. If you persist, you will succeed.